Yeah, those are our guests. Some of them are not here, but we continue with the conversation nonetheless. We have what is on the front page of the Business Daily, just as an introductory remark from them as well, talking about the divide between the poor and the rich in this country, looking at the headlining story on the front page of the Business Daily. Let me just have it up, and we can begin with you, Dr. Gituro Wanaina. Looking at that, and also the exports that have hit a 3-year low, according to CBK, what will be your assessment?
I think the first thing which comes about the rich and poor, when
Yes.
you're talking about 73%, it really goes to demonstrate, and talked this before. When you look at issues like GDP, it really doesn't say much, but you look at the Gini coefficient. This is a very clear indication of the gap between the rich and the poor in terms of the Gini coefficient.
Yes.
So it's telling you a lot of wealth, you have a lot of wealth, but it's concentrated with a few. And that's, to say 73 says a lot. And also, and I think when you also go to hear the exports, and it was interesting that Uganda for the first time had more exports to us than us, to them. But I want to take to page 13
Yes.
of the business data, perhaps.
Page 13?
The story is there.
Yes.
There's a page 13 of the business data. The graph up there on your right. If you can get it.
Right, page 13.
Page 13 of the business
Yes.
data.
Yes, there you go.
There's a graph there. If you look at that graph, which tells us the trends in budget allocations in billions from financial year 016-17 up to 019-20, this is where it is. This is why it tells you. Not the next one. You probably go to it's the same page, not that graph. It's on page 13.
This is 13.
No.
The physical deficit as a percentage of GDP?
No, I'm looking at
the last one.
trends in budget allocations.
Trends in budget allocation.
Is the next page.
Is the next, this is 12. Okay, this is
13 page.
13. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that one. Expand that.
Okay, cool. There we go.
That tells it all. Look how much we are allocating for recurrent. Yeah?
It's
The
jumped
graph
again.
says more. And when you look at the Nation headline, where Macharia is talking about a pay rise, that is going to go up again. And it's a concern. See how much we are putting into development over the years. We've actually been, the one in the most men are Karabrai, the green, I would suggest.
Yes.
016-17 was 861. We came down to 597. We are now at 6, and now we're talking about 7. This is where the animal is. Because this is not sustainable at all. And therefore, you find that the recurrent, really we are saying we have so many people who are paying, but they don't see the investing productivity in terms of what you see in the country. You can also see what is being passed to the counties. It has been decreasing, really. And if I'm asked, counties is where really the action is. That's where the development projects are.
Yes.
That's why we're doing the work. So to me, if you look at this graph, then it explains what you're talking about. Exports have hit 3-year low. Then you can see actually this one. So this to me explains everything. If you can actually study this vis-a-vis what you're seeing in the headline,
yes,
and contradiction, not only the contradiction, when you look at saying here, they're talking about 1 billion going towards this, is to actually take this one out.
By a billion.
Sorry?
I'm saying by another billion, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then the other thing that that is missing here, Dibal, is that if we actually even put in the question of public debt,
yes,
as an additional variance into this, you will realize one thing, that with the rising public debt, now the impact on the transfer to the counties is going to go down, because the first charge to the consolidated fund is usually on, debt is one of the things that your first charge to the consolidated fund is going to be affected. And when you see the advantage of having an increased development spending is that over time now you start reaping the returns from
Correct.
the investments.
Correct.
And when you start reaping the returns to the investments, the level of redistribution goes higher. Let's just look at a good example of Thika Road. Between the CBD all the way to Thika is approximately 50 kilometers. When the road was done, it was estimated to be approximately 30 billion. The expansion of Thika Road. The impact of it in less than a decade, actually, because like 5 years.
5 years, yes.
The infrastructure, the land that have come as a result of that investment, it is a development expenditure that you can start seeing its outcomes. So I was just adding into what Professor was pointing out, that we are asking questions of why things are not going, yet the answers are really right before us, that a lot of money that we're getting as in forms of our taxes are going towards a few. Because when you just look at even how many people are employed within the civil service, less than let me say 1 million. So you have all these other people contributing to the till, but the people who are benefiting through now recurring expenditure are a few. So dependency...
This is the thing we need to address.
Yeah.
Probably, and I'm not for cutting people in terms of engagement, but how do we increase productivity so that we can pay them? It was worrying, I think this week, for Kenyatta University, a public university, if I may say that way, putting some in the papers that they want to borrow 450 million. Yeah? They're asking commercial banks to put their bids. And if you unpack that university, you can actually see how much is going to recurrent.
To recurrent expenditure, yes. Yeah.
I'll bet it's taking maybe 80% or so. So we have so many bodies, but probably these bodies are not even productive.
There was this discussion on parastatal reform. Okay.
Continue.
Sorry. There was the reform on parastatal reforms. That Prof is saying that productivity is really our problem as a country.
Productivity.
Yes.
All right. So the chasm between the rich and the poor, and we have the story also inside the Standard, or on the front page of the Standard, why public servants also will wait longer for pay rise. On page 11, just on top here, there's a crisis. Are we facing a cash crisis within government as it is? Because also we're given to understand this will also affect the pension. There's that debate about also
I think it's not.
Yes.
I don't know what my brother has, but I think it's not. It's mismanagement, if I probably put it that way. Because if you look in terms of the responsibilities we have in institutions like Kenya Revenue Authority, people are paying taxes. And something we shared about weeks ago, that we have development budget, but we don't see it going to the machinery, as it were. I don't see the entrepreneurs. I don't see the person who provides cement. And sorry to the guy from Baburi. I don't see people who supply food like Mama Bogas. So what we perhaps, we have raised whatever we raise, it can go an extra mile. But in my view, we probably are not managing it well.
Okay.
Yes. And that goes to the issues of pending bills.
Right.
So if Vincent here has applied something for our construction farm, and the president has come very strongly. And I like one of the county, I can't remember which county has been their budget has been held because they have not cleared the pending bills. That's something we need to, because there are a lot of investors.
There are almost
who have
13 counties, actually.
Absolutely.
Yes, which have been,
absolutely.
Yes. Let's see from Paul Moyo. Good morning.
No, good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes.
My take is that there are several indicators in the papers, as we are saying. One of them is how institutions are unable to pay their debts. And we are seeing in the business daily today speaking about an institution unable to pay 240 million. Yes. And it's facing the auctioneer's hammer. Now, that has also to do with how are the markets performing. I was just looking through the numbers in the inside papers showing how the NSE is performing, and the numbers look depressed, and that has been the case over the past few months. Now, that tells you now generally how the market is performing, because there has been a story about many institutions unable to pay debt and therefore facing the hammer, including individuals who have taken up loans with the various credit institutions. And for that reason, then it tells you that at the micro level, at the household level, where economic development happens, therefore, there are an issue there. They are unable to make more money. Obviously, therefore, they are unable to have enough for doing what they are supposed to do, and more importantly, to make investment returns and earn profit out of it. And that tells you that generally, therefore, the country, from the micro level to the macro level, the country is not doing very well economically.
Yes,
Let me
Vincent.
say something, Debal. You see, I'm sure you've seen agitation for pay rises and all that. It is usually an indication of a pain somewhere. When you have a problem in the commodities market, in terms of the cost of products, the consumables, and then you the other thing that will be transferred to the labor markets in terms of people starting to ask for a higher pay rises so that then they can afford the cost of living. And then, of course, if then the economy is not generally also performing very well, we'll start seeing the impact in the financial market. So, as Paul has alluded, the first thing we have to do is we have to get the economy working for everybody. I'm an economist, and we normally measure the performance of an economy using GDP. But in such a meeting, in such a platform, when we have to discuss, even quoting the central bank governor says, hey, we have to be careful as economists that people don't eat GDP. You might have very good figures, say 10% rise in the economy, but if that is not translating to improved welfare on the part of the populace, then we actually are not, GDP does not mean a lot. So I would want to say that I think it is good to have a broad conversation on how do we get an economy that is working. At the moment, there is a discussion about like the presumptive tax. I actually want to say that it is not a taxation that I would actually advise and go for, because it hits the local person and it hits them hard, and when them are mamboga, because those are the people who are driving and moving the economy. We have talked about productivity, Debal. Look at our GDP. 25% of our GDP comes from the agricultural sector. The agricultural sector employs 75% of the population. So in terms of what Prof was saying earlier, that our issue is productivity. When you have, can you imagine, 75% of your population is producing 25. So it means actually you have, I don't know if I'm allowed to use such a terminology. Is it laziness, or it's actually an inefficient economy? If you compare the French economy with the Kenyan economy, we work long hours and producing less outputs. They work less hours and they produce a higher output because they've addressed the issue of efficiencies within the economy. Now, if we had time and just break down the investment of our development budgets into, is it going to facilitate these sectors that are going to actually help accelerate productivity? The answer is no. Look at the amount of money that we've been allocated to the agricultural and the livestock sectors, which actually have more people in them. You will realize a lot is not going to those sectors. And finally, is also, are we putting money in areas that we have a competitive advantage on, in terms of things that Kenya is only good at? because we are in a competitive and a globally competitive economy. Prof, you alluded earlier that the exports from Uganda to Kenya are on the rise. There is something about productivity and competition they've addressed that we haven't. You have been on the, since you're in the media, there were headlines recently about increased eggs being imported from Uganda to the Kenyan. There was increased milk from Uganda coming to Kenya. It's a simple thing. If you are competitive in the market, what happens? The consumer is rational.
And now the investors are being lured into Ethiopia.
Yes. So anyway, I was just saying we don't require a magic bullet in terms of solutions. I was looking at the solutions that were put recently. You remember the ones that saying we want to buy prices of milk, increasing the prices of milk, increasing the prices of rice. You cannot solve an economy through direct transfers because you are not addressing the core problem, which is efficiency and productivity.